So J.R. Hildebrand made the news this week after he was spotted on the entry list for the 2021 Pikes Peak Hillclimb driving a modern Dallara DW12 Indycar. For those of you unaware, the Pikes Peak Hillclimb is one of the most famous hill climbs in the world, probably the most famous one in America. It's an event that's run much like a rally, point to point against the clock, single car runs, but the impressive part about Pikes Peak is it's a hill climb and it's really a mountain climb. It's up a massive mountain, Pikes Peak Mountain in Colorado. The race starts at 9,000 feet above sea level and finishes at the peak of the mountain at 14,000 feet. This is an event that's become more popular in recent years, with Peugeot and Volkswagen beating the record building special-made vehicles to tackle the mountain climb. But it's also an event that's changed a lot more recently. Up until 2002, from the event's inception in the early 1900s, it was run almost entirely on gravel and dirt surfaces. But in 2002, they started paving parts of the course due to some environmental concerns, and now the whole course is paved, which means quicker speeds than ever. Having the course be completely paved these days does make it possible for something like an IndyCar to make it up the mountain, but it's going to be really interesting to see what they do to the car to make it adapt. Will they put huge wings on it? Clearly the altitude's going to be an issue at 9,000, 14,000 feet, and the engine itself. Up until this point, the Pikes Peak Hillclimb is something I only really had a passive interest in. I think something a lot of folks don't realize is IndyCar racing up Pikes Peak isn't that crazy of an idea, and it's actually a little bit of a homecoming. From the late 1940s on and off to the end of the 1960s, IndyCar and USAC Champ Car actually raced and sanctioned an official race at the Pikes Peak Hillclimb. This race was run like a regular hill climb event, single car timed runs up the mountain, but accounted for official USAC points and was in the championship. During this time, Al Rogers, Louis Unser, Al Unser, and Mario Andretti were all winners of this event, but nobody won it quite as much as Bobby Unser did. Growing up, I always thought of the Unsers as IndyCar drivers, but they were just as much IndyCar drivers as they were Pikes Peak Hillclimb drivers, and Bobby Unser won the event a total of 10 times. He actually lost to Rick Mears one year in the 70s as well. So the IndyCar history at the Pikes Peak Hillclimb goes deep. So because of the news of Hildebrand and IndyCar going back to Pikes Peak, I read up a little bit on the event and wanted to see what it was like when IndyCar used to race the Pikes Peak Hillclimb. So this is a completely dirt and gravel covered Pikes Peak for Assetto Corsa. The asphalt has been ripped away and nature's taken back the mountain. The version of Pikes Peak that's available for Assetto Corsa may not be the most graphically pleasing, although at certain angles it does look really good, but it's built entirely off scan data, so it's pretty accurate to how the course is, at least these days, and I figured out how to put the dirt back and remove the asphalt to simulate a little bit what the old course would have been like. Now, Assetto Corsa doesn't exactly do dirt physics extremely well, but I think it's actually quite good, and it gives a great impression of what the circuit might have been like to drive. And to drive up the dirt version of the circuit, you need the right hardware, and I was lucky enough to track down a vintage sprint car powered by an Offenhauser engine. This Offie-powered sprint car is very much like what Bobby Unser would have driven to the summit in the 1950s. These cars were not that different than the ones that raced at the mile or half mile, quarter mile dirt tracks all around the Midwest, and they weren't even too dissimilar from the cars that would have raced at Indianapolis, or at least tried to qualify at Indianapolis. So seeing this and reading back through some of the old history, it's not that crazy of an idea that they used to race this as a part of the USAC championship. It's just a very different type of event to the way we think of IndyCar these days. So I'm going to take the Offie sprint car up the mountain, and back in 1956, Bobby Unser was able to turn a 14 minute and 27 second time going up the mountain. And I'm no Uncle Bobby, but I think that gives an interesting time to shoot for and just see where I compare. So I've been having a ton of fun with this, and I'm excited to show it off. So let's see how fast I can get up the mountain. All right, so here we are in the car, and I'm actually parked a little bit further back from the start line. Sprint cars don't have a starter in them, so they would get a push start and do a rolling start through the start line. So I wanted to try to simulate that a little bit. I don't have a truck to push me, but see if I can get going from a standing start and get through that start line here. really long gear, but we'll come around the corner, try to not hit our pit guy here, get under that start banner to get going with our time, and we'll be unleashed onto one of the fastest parts of the course simply because the angle at which it goes up the hill is probably some of the lowest it is for the full lap. I think you average about 7 degrees up the mountain. And certainly down here is some of the shortest incline. As we head further up, it gets much, much steeper. We'll just ease it around the corners, nice and easy over the gravel here. Easy to run wide through this one, whack into that barrier. I guess it's there for a reason. Whoa. Try to get the throttle back on. There we go. Really easy to get crossed up. The sprint car is such a short wheelbase, which makes it awesome at turning, but also can make it a handful if you don't get the throttle down just perfect. Past the 8-mile marker there. Zip it in. Missed that apex slightly, but there'll be plenty of those. I think there's over 150 corners on this circuit to try to memorize. There we go, nice and easy coming out of the corner, really about half throttle for all of it. Dab of the brakes there, just try to get the car set up. Oh, and it's gonna slide wide a little bit. Come up here to this 90-degree left-hander. There's a lot of these aqueducts on the inside and outside of the circuit, which would absolutely ruin your day if you ran wide or cut the corner too much. Track opens up here a bit. Come around these corners past the 9-mile marker. Try to cut it as well as I can here. Oh, bogging down. There we go. Is an exercise in just precise movements. You can see why the drivers that did this were so good. Flat out here down the straight, we're gonna get off that throttle onto the brakes a bit. The corner up here is quite tight. Try to dip it on the inside just slightly. The track loves to invalidate lap times if you cut or run wide anywhere, so hopefully that doesn't happen. We'll come now through this left-hander and come up the hill a little bit more, come to our first hairpin, which you'll soon realize are everywhere on the circuit. But here we go. Try to swing it around. Want to use that throttle to loop the back end around, just understeering through it a bit, bogging down on the exit. Whoa, a little bit of oversteer there. Not a professional corner at all, but any corner you can survive at Pikes Peak is a good one. Easy enough to loop the car in any corner, just the throttle comes on so strong. Oh, wheel got away from me there for a second. Come now through, pretty lazy left-hander here, series of apexes. Come past some of these rocks. There's a few corners with those rocks next to them, which are absolutely killers. It's not something you'd want to hit in a car. Come up here to another hairpin. Never mind a sprint car, which barely has a roll bar. So far so good. A couple mistakes, but obviously no major off tracks, which is always a plus. Throw a flick here. Track will straighten out now. Road straightens out. Past another mile marker, a little bit of a wall on the left side here. Yeah, now spot that. Luckily got the guardrail with a little bit of a barrier there, letting me know it's a sharp corner. Not something they would have had in the 50s and 60s, I'd expect. Oh, and this corner always catches me out with the rocks on the outside too. We're gonna run a little bit wide. All right, there we go. So making a mess of things there. I'll just try to gather it back together. If you mess up a corner, you just got to concentrate. There's over 150 corners around here, so there's plenty that you'll get right, plenty that you'll get wrong. I don't think you could do a perfect lap around here, especially on the dirt. Now this long right-hander, which tightens radius towards the exit, makes it extra hard. Oh, trying to cut it there. Oh, invalid lap, but we'll keep going with it. It'll still count the time anyway. All right, straightens out a little bit here. I think we got a couple more hairpins to get through. So we're really starting to climb now. You can see starts off very gradual, but it'll get even more crazy than this. Long left-hander here. Should have come out a little wider halfway through. Oh, full lock there. All right, just guide it through this S here. Come around. Now we see, I think this is called the halfway camping area. I'm not sure it's exactly halfway, but certainly is some kind of gate I'll pass through without getting a ticket. Just touch the inside there. Very easy to run into that wall on the outside. Past mile marker 13 now. We'll head around another hairpin here to go very steep, starting now to climb the mountain. You can see also, once we get past that camping area entrance, the track's going to start to open up with the trees. We'll shortly here get above the tree line, and it dramatically changes how the circuit looks. Even in this version of the circuit, you really feel like you're going somewhere. And I keep calling it a circuit. I know it's just a hill climb or a point-to-point, but it really is spectacular. So we'll come around. Long right-hander here, just don't want to run wide. There's no guardrail up here to protect the car from flying off the mountain. So we'll come around, spot that guardrail. That's where we want to start braking. I don't know how you do it without that. Got a parasailer out there enjoying his day. Oh, understeer. We'll come around, spot my favorite outhouse. All right, head around this left-hander. This guardrail can trick you, make you think it's a hairpin, but it's really just a 90-degree corner. A little slow through there. Try to get the throttle down, but nothing to protect you here. It'd be so sketchy. I can't imagine doing this in a car which does not really have a roll cage. All right, come to the hairpin. All right, a few more here. Oh, don't want to hit that aqueduct on the inside. And I believe this is the part of the circuit called Glen Cove, although I could be wrong. Quite slow through there. It's easy to get bogged down. The gear in this car is just very long. Still learning the course as ever. Come up here, climbing so much. We'll actually go over the top of this first part here in a second. There we go, it's a bit better through there. Tough to spot this next one. Just don't want to run it too deep. The track actually falls away here on the entry. Take a conservative line, as I would definitely do in real life. I don't think I'd be here in real life. This is just too extreme. Try to get that throttle down again, though. One last switchback. Try not to outbrake myself. Dust going everywhere. There we go. Come through a long, tighter left-hander. Easy to run wide. But across the ridge now. actually goes down for a second ahead. Understeering there. Try to get back on the throttle. All right, up to mile marker 16, which I know starts the Devil's Playground, and you'll see why that's what it's called in a second. This is probably the fastest part of the circuit, but it's also one of the most exposed, fastest part of the mountain climb. But here we come around a long right-hander, and this is such an easy place to wreck a full run. This corner's deceptively tight, or maybe not. It's just really tough to get the best line through there. I'll take it very conservative. There we go, back on the throttle. You can finally see a bit ahead of you. We'll come down to a walled section, which is nice for safety, but can ruin a lap, ruin a run. Oh, oversteer there. So easy to get thrown off the side of the cliff. You see videos of cars just tumbling down the hill, and I can't imagine in a sprint car what that would end up like. Very, very much not good. So we're basically traversing to the backside of the mountain now, where we'll finish the climb to the summit. This corner's tight, very easy to get caught out on. You also have to imagine at this altitude, we're probably well over 10,000 feet now, and the engine would be struggling, especially in these cars, would be struggling for air, so your car would totally change up here. Just what you need, something unpredictable, as you're on one of the most treacherous parts of, most treacherous circuits of all time. All right, we'll come down hairpin here. Again, easy to run wide. Understeering, of course. Oh, we'll loop it around. Just try to keep the RPMs up. So one loop. That'll give Bobby Unser the win. Just tiptoe it on the inside. And the way this track is modeled in Assetto Corsa, you can absolutely go tumbling down the side of the mountain if you so please. And with the Seoul weather patch too, you actually do get above the clouds, which is so impressive to see. It really feels like you're far up, which is not a sensation I've gotten in many games before. But very fast now, flat out almost. So we'll come up here to a blind corner, chicken out a little bit. I'll just slide the car through. Oversteering there. Barely held onto it. I'm lucky it didn't slide off the side of the mountain. I can see the cable cars ahead if I can get the wheels straight. This will be a couple more hairpins. Brake for this one here. Try to get a run up. Final couple of corners on the circuit. We're doing quite well on time too. Despite the full 360 at one of the hairpins earlier on. This is the one that fakes you out. I always think it's at that banner, but it's actually up here at the guardrail. Thankfully for the guardrails. But we'll come around the corner. Just 27 seconds till Bobby Unser's time. We'll come around the long left-hander. You can see all the tents now for the finish line. And come across it. There we go. So 14 minutes and 16 seconds, beating Bobby Unser's 14:27. So if nothing else, that's a ton of fun. I'm not sure how accurate the physics are. I don't think I drove anywhere near the quality it would take to beat Bobby Unser, but I have a lot of fun doing it, and even if it's somewhat accurate, just based off videos, it seems like it's not super far off. So it's really fun to see what IndyCar, what USAC was like racing up Pikes Peak on a full dirt circuit. I definitely want to try some other cars around here. I know they also raced full body cars as well, as they still do to this day. And so racing anything up through the 80s on the full dirt circuit would be a ton of fun. So I'll do what I can to try to share what I've done to change the circuit. I think I can actually share the files you would need to make the asphalt version into dirt, and so I hope people enjoy that. I hope you don't take it too seriously with some of the mess ups in my full loop around, but maybe I'll come back after I've perfected things and actually put down a good time. Maybe Richie's got a future racing up here at the hill climb. So I hope you enjoyed it. Fun thing based off the news. I can't wait to see what Hildebrand's going to do in the modern IndyCar and what that's going to be like at all. It's just really exciting to see something like that happen with an active car. So hope you enjoyed it. I'll let the run play out from the TV cameras. It's quite fun to watch. So I'll see you all again next time.